Half a day, and thank you for joining us, Mr. Al Yanger from GPSI Guam. It's a pleasure to have you, and we're honored to feature your company for National Veterans Small Business Week. So why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself and your business and maybe the branch of the military service that you came from?
Sure, half a day journey. Thank you for including me in this, and it's a very worthwhile effort. I appreciate it whenever it's about the veterans, we're there for you. Okay, so thank you so much. I am Ali Anger. I'm the president of GPSI Guam and one of the founding members of GPSI Guam, along with my business partner Frank Dumino. And I'll get into that later on. But a little bit about myself. I'm a 1977 graduate of George Washington Senior High School in Guam. I attended the junior ROTC with the high school, and that was my kickoff for the military. After leaving George Washington, I went to basic training with the Army, and I did that at Fort Knox, Kentucky, and went on to serve as a young private. Then went to college on a scholarship, on an Army scholarship, at a Midwest junior college called Kemper Military Junior College. That school is gone by already, but it put out a lot of really good young officers, both men and women, to the military and primarily to the Army. In fact, one of the schools was named after a young lady from Guam. Um, yeah, her name is Julie Ujoa Heath, and one of the buildings are named after her because she was the first female graduate from that ROTC program. So
Wow.
yeah, really impressive history there, and really impressive young lady. Anyway, so after college, my first assignment was with the 101st Airborne Division by the U.S. Army, and I started there as a young lieutenant. Served 22 years in places like Fort Campbell, Kentucky, Fort Bragg, North Carolina, Germany, back to the Pentagon, and and then traveled around the world wherever the Army wanted to send me, like Central and South America and Africa and Alaska and all around Europe. So I had those opportunities all with the military, and at the same time, I was able to also finish my college. So I got my undergraduate degree, and then of course, I had a 2-year scholarship, full ride scholarship from the Army for my associate's degree. I finished my undergraduate degree at in Missouri, and then I finished my master's program with Central Michigan University in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and that was through an extension program at the Pentagon. In
Wow.
2001, I retired from the Army after 22 years, and I went to work here locally in the Washington D.C. area. And yes, I am here in the Washington D.C. metro area, and the temperature is dropping, and I'm wearing my U.S. flag sweater. So uh, uh, yeah, the temperature is dropping, I my wife and I bought a home here in 1993, and when I retired in 2001, I went to work as a consultant for the Department of Defense, um, pretty much for the next 10 years, working with a small company that was doing what I'm doing today. And so, in that respect, I was able to learn, grow, and experience um, the things that I needed to know to open my business. Okay, so a really wonderful opportunity for me. The owner of the company is a guy named John Myers, a retired Army colonel. Um, and again, here's the theme, right? Here's a veteran helping a veteran learn to take care of other veterans. And so John Myers took me under his wing and taught me everything I needed to know about building a business, growing a business, and sustaining a business. You know, primarily in the federal sector. I don't do anything in the commercial market or industry. Everything we do is in the federal sector. And yeah, and so uh, I was working for the Department of Interior, Bureau of Indian Affairs as a consultant, an IT consultant, because my master's program is information systems and computer science. And so while I was working there, a good friend of mine, Frank Dumino, who was a 1977 graduate of Voc Tech, now Guam Community College. Frank was retired out of Andrews Air Force Base right here in the Washington, D.C. metro area. And he and I were both working for the Department of Interior as consultants. Well, we were under a tree. I remember this clearly. We're under an oak tree having lunch, and we said to each other, let's go back to Guam, take all this experience that we have, and open up a business. And more importantly, let's go create jobs on the island. We already knew that we wanted to give back, and we figured this is the way for us to do that, right? So yeah, so in 2000 and December 22nd, 2010, we actually incorporated the company GPSI Guam. It started as Galidi Professional Services Incorporated,
Okay.
right? But there are several Galidi companies on Guam. So to respect the fact that they started before us, we do business as GPSI Guam. Okay.
Okay.
And so that's when you see our business cards and our marketing materials, you don't see Galidi Professional Services, you see GPSI Guam. But it's important to understand why we chose Galidi. Frank and I, our family are fishermen. Our ever since, right? Our ancestors were fishermen. Our fathers, our grandfathers, our brothers today, we're all fishermen, and the Galidi was a big part of our history. So when our ancestors used the Galidi, they used it as a vehicle for transport and commerce. And so we looked at that and we said, you know what, that would be a good image for our company, because this little company can in fact be a vehicle for commerce first, and then a transport into the local, national, and global marketplaces. So we were very excited about tying our business to the island, and doing it that way, right? Where it meant something to us.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Kind of giving back to where you
that's
came
where we
from.
are. So now it's been 10 years, and here we are, right?
Congratulations, 10 years in business. That is so inspiring. We're just happy to see the growth that you guys have built for your company, and the fact that you're able to also contribute back to the island by providing job opportunities for locals here as well to enhance your business and also give back to the community. So thank you very much, Mr. Al. What are some challenges maybe that you've experienced when you first started that you didn't anticipate, and what were some inspirations for starting your business?
Sure. So let's start with the inspirations. My mother, when I was growing up, she raised 12 children, and my mother always was looking for ways to make extra money, right? Mm-hmm. So she would make donuts. She would have us go and catch fish. She would garden and bag things like doni and things like that, and then she'd have us go around the community and sell these things, right, to make extra money to feed these 12 children, right? And I keep telling my friends that my mother was able to cut a can of Spam 24 times so that we could each have 2 slices, right?
Oh.
anyway, so that's one of my early inspirations, and then as we grow older and we start realizing, and then we started working. My brothers started working with McDonald's. I started working with landscaping and stuff like that, and we're always doing something different, right? And we're always thinking to ourselves, we could do this. We could create our own company, but of course, you can't do what you don't know, right? Mm-hmm. And so for us, the path was go to school, and my mother was very adamant about this. Go to school, get your education, learn a skill, and then come back and sell that skill, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what I did. Learning from the businesses on Guam, and then when I got exposed to my uncles who were members of the Guam Chamber, and their pictures are now on the walls of the Guam Chamber as the honor roll of business on Guam, uncles and aunts, and those are the kind of people that kind of stuck with me for a long time. I wanted to have a career in the military, but I knew early on that I wanted to be in business as well. And so those were the inspirations, right? And sometimes you don't understand that. You just kind of feel it, right?
Right.
And so, it's later on that I understood what was going through my psyche and my
Mhm.
thinking. Um, but it was later on in my career. In fact, it was after we had started the company that I realized, wow, it all led up to this. Okay,
Mhm.
and you know what? That's a path that every single person can take, because every one of us have different experiences, but every one of us have experiences that will take us to where we are right now. And what we're doing right now is marketable. What you're doing right now is marketable. You know, and a lot of people don't realize that. And a lot of military guys go through a career. Some of them don't finish as retirees. Some of them do, but every one of them has a marketable skill, and they
Mhm.
don't realize that they can actually start a business with that marketable skill. So it's
Right.
really cool. Yeah, but of course, the more education you have and the more training you have, um, the better for you, right? Because it expands your horizon, expands your view, your
Mhm.
perspective. So that's really exciting. Now, the challenge that we had when Frank and I first started the company, of course, we were in the DC metro area. I was working in a small business. I was learning all this stuff about small business, but Frank was a consultant. He was out working for companies, working for the federal government. And when we got together, I had the perspective he didn't, and so we had to go through that learning curve to bring him up to speed where I was. Right.
Mhm.
Um, then we were in the DC metro area. We wanted to start the company, but we were geographically away from Guam.
Mhm.
So we had to find a lawyer, someone who could work as our registered agent to submit our application for business and all that good stuff. And
Mhm.
it worked out very well. Um, uh, the next biggest challenge is that we were we were told by all these SBA guys and all these small business people that there's a lot of funding out there. Okay, and there's a lot of funding, and all you have to do is just reach out and find the funding, and we got zero. Okay, nobody. Because you have to explain to these people, you have to explain to these finance agencies, banks, and folks like that,
Mhm.
even investors. You have to explain to them that you have this idea about a business,
Mhm.
and then you have to sell them on your idea. Otherwise, they're going to say, no, we don't want to get involved with that. Well, none of them wanted to get involved with us because we were taking a model from the Washington D.C. metro area,
Okay.
right? It was a consulting model, consulting for services. And when I say services, I mean administration, logistics, information technology, telecommunications, um, these kinds of things, staff augmentation. And we were taking that model and we were going to horizontally drop it on Guam and say,
Mhm.
this is our business.
Mhm.
And to a person, they didn't believe us. And so Frank and I had a dilemma. That dilemma was, how do we leave our our jobs?
Mhm.
We both had very high paying jobs here in the DC metro area. We both had families, and we were going to make this huge commitment to come back to Guam and open up a business.
Mhm.
And we had no one who believed us, no one who would help to fund our idea. So we went and we did it ourselves. We both had 401ks from the military, and we burned those 401ks, and
Oh.
we used that to fund the first 2 years of the company. Okay,
Okay.
um, and there was a lot of there's a lot of um, frustration. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot because you're taking what is essentially part of your retirement,
Mhm.
investing it in this business, and now you got to make sure it works. And I'll tell you, that was to me that was the I think the best thing for us because it made us one. It scared us tremendously,
Mhm.
but it also made us realize that that money wasn't ours to burn. That money belonged to our families. And so it was very important for us to make sure that we did everything we could to grow this business and not lose that money.
Mhm.
Okay. So, you know, uh, yeah, so that was really the biggest challenge. And now here's the last challenge. When we got to Guam, here we were thinking, we got 20 some years of military. We got both of us, Frank and I, both had master's programs under our belts, and then we had experience working as consultants or as business people in the DC metro area for 9 to 10 years. And you know what? We came to Guam thinking we got this. We're gonna take this idea and we're gonna roll all over the island. Well, the lesson hit us in the face really hard. It hit us. It's like bang, what a big punch in the nose, because Guam is like everywhere else. There are there are um, different ways of doing business. There are local nuances. There are things that happen on Guam that don't happen in the DC metro area, and vice versa, right?
Hmm.
And we were thinking we're going to take this idea we had from the DC metro area and bring it over and drop it on Guam, and and just take over the island. And I'll tell you what, that was a rude awakening for us. And so someone told us, they said, you know what, you guys need a mentor. You need somebody who could help you get started, help you understand the marketplace,
Hmm.
help you understand how Guam business works. And so I remember General Benny Polino invited me to play golf with him one day, and he said, "I want to introduce you to this gentleman who is an incredible businessman." And I thought, "Oh wow!" And I said that about General Polino because he and I were stationed in Germany together. So we got to know each other, and our families got to know it. And my wife actually delivered his youngest son, right?
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. He was a nurse in the hospital. So uh, General Polino introduced me to a gentleman named Dave Santos. Dave was from Santa Rita. Um, he was the director of the ESGR for a long time, for maybe 3 years, the last 3 years, before he turned over that seat. And Dave, what an incredible mind. I mean, but the most important thing about Dave was he had the patience of Job, because he had these two military guys who thought they had it all, who thought that we knew everything, right? And he had to bring us down to earth first, and then he had to say, okay, now that I got you where I need you, now let's talk about how to do business in Guam. And it was a wonderful experience, and God bless him, God bless his family, and you know he just had open heart surgery, and but he's doing good, and we love him. We absolutely love him. But we still turn to him every once in a while. We'll turn to him and say, "Hey, how would you do this?" And he'll be very frank, very frank with us, and not mince any words. So yeah, so those were the inspirations and the challenges that we had.
It's
Um,
great that you had
yeah,
that mentorship, right? As a business owner, it's good to always seek advice from others, right? Obviously, we don't know everything,
yeah,
so it's good to always seek and ask those important questions as a business owner because, like you mentioned, each geographic location is different. So of course, doing business in those different areas are going to be different as well. So it's good that you found a mentor. Another good tip that I've learned from what you've just spoken about is that, of course, you got to take risks as a business owner, right? But the risk is probably greater. The reward is probably going to be greater than the risk if you just put the hard work and the effort into it. And like you mentioned, your reason behind it was your family. You wanted to make sure that they still got something back because you did use your 401k, and which was supposed to be for them. So that was your motivation to make sure that this succeeds. So that's so inspirational, and thank you for sharing that.
yeah.
Um,
Let me add as well. That with the risk, we had to do things to mitigate that risk, right? And
mhm.
so it started with the experiences, the education, the training that we received in the military. Um, that really helped because the military taught us how to manage stress, and being able to manage stress. You look at a problem and you say, okay, that's a problem, jump into it, right?
Mhm.
But don't just jump into it blindly. Have a plan,
Right.
and have an approach, and be disciplined about doing that. And the military provided it for us, so it was a very good that helped to mitigate a lot of our risk. And of course, um, bringing Dave along, or asking Dave to help us, is another risk mitigator. But it's something the military is doing. The military for a long time allowed young sergeants and young lieutenants to grow and learn by themselves, and just experience.
Mhm.
Now they're applying the mentor principle to everything that we do. So now young sergeants have mentors, young lieutenants have mentors, and even majors and colonels, and in some case generals have mentors. So it is a lifelong um, benefit and resource for all of us, right?
Right.
And if any of your veterans are looking for mentors, look for me, okay? Seek
Okay,
me out,
great. So
because
you are putting
because
yourself
they
out
are.
there to be willing to mentor any aspiring entrepreneurs or even veterans who are looking to start their own business as well.
I love those guys. I love every one of them, and they are one of the reasons I do what I do today. Okay,
That's awesome. Thank you very much, Al.
you're
We
welcome.
really appreciate it. So
Yeah,
you spoke a little bit about how the military has kind of trained you for dealing and mitigating risk. They've obviously it's also trained you to prepare for unforeseen circumstances. So being that we are going through the pandemic of COVID-19 right now, you are over in the United States in the Washington, D.C. area. I'm not sure how the situation is over there. But of course, here on Guam, we are still in PCOR 1. So what are some different ways that your company has kind of pivoted or maybe altered your usual business operations to kind of deal with the current pandemic right now?
yeah, that's a very good question. And I was there in Guam from January until July 30th is when I left to come out here to the DC metro area. But so I was there during the entire height of the pandemic, for the most part, and I had to fly out of Guam to get here. So I had to be tested there and then tested here when I got here, right? And fortunately, my tests were negative, and I've been taking care of myself, wearing my mask and doing all those kind of good things, right? So uh, for the company, we were very fortunate because 100% of our contracts are federal contracts. When the pandemic hit, the military, the U.S. military on Guam, declared all our contracts um, essential. So we didn't have to let anyone go. We didn't have to lose, we didn't lose any money. Um, but the challenge then was, how do you exercise? How do you execute the contract? How do your people continue to work, right? And about 5 years ago, we started instituting a work from home program. Okay. In fact, in GPSI, the entire headquarters staff works from home. We have a we have a brick and mortar office, but it's manned very lightly, and but we allow our folks to go home, because home is what, 20 minutes away, whichever direction you go from Agana, right?
Mhm.
Or Hagana, right? And so we were able to have all our technology synced up so that everybody could work from home. We were actually doing Zoom meetings before everybody else was, right? Now we're doing team meetings because Zoom is a questionable tool with the federal government. But when the pandemic hit, we were already working in this environment. We were already working um, remotely, and
Okay.
so for us, it was just a matter of send everybody home, make sure they're test everybody's systems, make sure they're up and running, and let's continue our march. I mean, here I am. I'm in Washington D.C. and I attend meetings every day with the staff. I talk to them every day. You know, I get paid, right? So my
Mhm.
payroll doesn't stop.
Mhm.
My benefits don't stop except at the limitation of the provider.
Mhm.
Those kinds of things. So it's a willingness to let technology take you to the next level. I think that's what we were able to do. And the thing is, Frank was a telecommunications um, uh, project manager for the Air Force with an MBA.
Mhm.
I was an information systems manager for the Army at the Pentagon, with a master's in information systems,
Right.
right? And so we already had that embedded in our psyche, in our thoughts, in our way we do business, right? Trust technology, or use technology as a force multiplier. Use it to help your business grow and sustain. And so we did that. And I'll tell you what, we were way ahead of the curve when all of this started, and we still are. Yeah.
I
So
was just going to say that you guys were already way ahead of the entire curve with having your system already in place with the work from home model. So, wow, that's
yeah,
crazy. That's great.
yeah. In fact, some of our friends actually reached out to us and said, "What do we need to do?" And that was very important because when you work with the federal government, and especially the Department of Defense, security is a very big issue, right? I mean,
Yes.
here we have the Russians. The Russians have visa waivers to vacation on Guam.
Hmm.
The Chinese, are able to get into Guam, however they get it, right? And so there are issues with human intelligence and signals intelligence that we have to be concerned with. And so for us, security is a very big issue. Cybersecurity is a very big issue, and we are. Um, I think that if you compare us to most companies in Guam, we're way ahead of everybody.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
and
cybersecurity
I
is
think
a very big issue. And that's
yeah,
actually one of our initiatives is to educate the small businesses because a lot of them do work with the federal federal government and a lot of information is very sensitive. So that's something that business owners need to kind of consider is to make sure that they have a solid cybersecurity system in place so that way, their individual company's information is protected as well as their staff and personal information, but also the information that you get through contracts with the government is also protected as well.
yeah.
So,
Something that the PTAC has been teaching on. We were actually following about a year and a half ago. It's called CMMC, Cybersecurity Maturity
mhm,
Model Certification, right?
right,
And a message just came out that as of November 30th, if you are not moving toward a CMMC certification, you cannot do business with the federal government. You
right.
cannot do business with the DoD first, and then the federal government will follow suit. And
Mhm,
so, yeah, so those kinds of things you have to stay abreast with, and yeah, yeah, and understand clearly.
right.
Sure. Yeah.
But you guys you have a good system in place, so that's great. Hopefully, if other businesses have any questions, they can call you too, or they can also call PTAC or SBDC, and we will be glad to help you guys out with cybersecurity issues or questions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So as we wrap up, what advice would you give to aspiring veteran entrepreneurs or just entrepreneurs in general who are looking to start their small business?
Well, advice number one: be patient. Right? Be true to yourself about what kind of a product you want to sell. You know, and in some cases, people don't know what product to sell. Right? I mean, that's why the SBDC and the PTEC exist, to help people understand, what the strengths and weaknesses are, and what potentially they can market. Um, uh, yeah. So be patient, trust yourself, uh, and don't try to do it by yourself. Okay. We had Dave Sablon, but we also had the SBDC and the PTAC to help us understand the licensing requirements on Guam and those kinds of things, and then to be able to attend the free classes that you guys give, man, that's invaluable to business, um, especially when you're growing and you want your entire staff to be on the same sheet of music, right? In most cases, I don't have the time to sit down with them and say, okay, here's how the federal government works. But I can send them to an SBDC or PTAC class, and they'll come back and say, oh, I get it. I get it, right? And so it's important that everybody, veterans who want to start their business, because veterans are taught to think on their own, think on their feet, think on their own, solve your problems. And in some cases, that could be the crux of our problem, because we think we got to do it by ourselves, right? We have to do it by ourselves, and we don't. We
Mhm.
don't have to do it by ourselves, and if you do that, your probability of failure is much higher. Okay, and so um, there are so many resources like the SBDC, like the PTEC, like businesses that have already gone ahead, like myself, and be patient. I mean, it's taken us 10 years to go from two guys to close to 35, 40 maybe. Okay.
Wow.
And now we're in a position where in the next year we could triple our company, maybe quadruple our company. Um, you know, but yeah, just be patient and work hard. Work hard, trust in God, because when all else fails, you got you got that under your you know under your
He's always by
shirt,
your side.
always by your side. Because I pray a lot. We pray
Yes.
we pray a lot, and you
Coming
don't
from a
know.
small island, religion is very important to a lot of families, and it's part of our culture, right? So of course that's something that
Yeah,
Chamorros especially kind of value.
yeah. The army had a program, and it was a program created around values. And so the acronym was MVVGO, Mike Victor Victor Golf Oscar, and it meant mission, vision, values, goals, and objectives. Okay, and if everybody will just remember that, and then remember this one other message, and I remind my staff about this every day: be good to people, be fair to people, be nice to people. Why? Because tomorrow you're going to see them in church. Okay? Tomorrow you're going to see them at Payless. Tomorrow you're going to see them at the beach. And the last thing I want to do is walk in anywhere and have to turn my head in shame because someone in my staff didn't follow those principles. Okay? And I remind them, if you can't follow those principles, then God bless you. You need to find somewhere else to work
Mhm.
because we can't work together. Okay? And
Right.
yeah, yeah, it's things like that things, but also reminding yourself that. And I was talking to my business partner about this today. 10 years, and it's all because we have a wife, we have children, we have grandchildren, and those are the reasons, right?
Right. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
so
such
you
a
can't
big
forget it.
milestone. So it's so great to look back and just see how far you've come. So we hope that you guys are celebrating. We are happy and honored to be celebrating you this week for National Veteran Small Business Week. So thank you again, Mr. Al, for joining the SBDC, just to honor you guys as veterans. And we're really happy that you were able to participate today. So thank you very much. We thank you again for your service, your past service in the military, as well as your partner Frank. And we wish you guys continued success in your business, and just God bless you guys and your company. So thank you
Thank
again.
you, Geraldine. And again, for all the veterans out there, we're here for you. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you. You guys heard it first from Mr. Al Yanger from GPSI Guam. So thank you again. And how can they get a hold of you if they do need to contact you? Do you have any website, social media?
Absolutely. Our website is www.gpsiguam.com. I am on LinkedIn. I don't use the social media pages, but I am on LinkedIn.
Okay.
And and if they're really serious about reaching out to me, when I'm on Guam, go down to Tumon Bay or Pago Bay and look for the Taladzero, the short, stocky Taladzero. Okay.
You guys will find him near the sea. You heard it first. Okay,
All
thank
right.
you very
Thanks,
much,
Jordan.
Al. Have a great day. We hope that the weather gets a little warmer for you out there in Washington. And thank you for joining me. Even though the time difference, we really thank you. So
You're
have a
welcome.
great day and stay safe.
Okay. You too. Bye bye.
Okay, bye-bye.